We are back live, and at this time, I think before we start in the next budget, you have an answer for the question that was asked earlier. Estelle.
Thank you, Your Worship. To answer Councillor Cornelson's question regarding how much the property taxes will be increased for a property that is classed under farmland that has been assessed at 1.5 million. The total increase at the proposed tax rate increase of 4.85% will be $150 for the year.
Plus the tax assessment on their house, correct?
If there is a residential property on the same lot, there is also an RT class portion of the property. This would be strictly for the portion of the property that is classed as farm.
My final question on this, are all the taxes that the landowner pays, a farmer pays, are they tax deductible for that particular farmer as a business expense? Perhaps one of my farming colleagues can answer that question.
I have not processed any. I believe that they are. I don't see why they wouldn't be.
They are? Thank you.
Okay, so.
Was that your final answer? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go next is economic development and planning.
Correct.
So page 1 on them.
Page 1, that is planning and zoning.
Councillor Cornelison.
I know it surprised you, Mayor Roth, but I do have a question. Under project recoveries, 0730 at the bottom, $68,000. What is that? It looks that's a revenue. Where does that come from?
Your Worship. So it is cost recovery for engineering and legal fees for subdivision or contract developments, development properties. So we are we are allowed to bill any engineering or legal fees that we incur to the developer.
So effectively, it's a cost recovery.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Irwin.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 2 questions. I'm going to follow up on the first one of my colleagues. How realistic is that number? I mean, 68,000. Where did that number come from?
Through the mayor. So that's an estimate based on the various planning files that we have that are working their way through the design phase or through the legal process of drafting agreements. So we look at each file to come up with that, and we feel like it's a pretty good representative number of the costs we expect to recover.
If I may add, we also have in the expense line those corresponding expenses.
Okay. Second question.
And I'm sure this is one of those corresponding expenses. I see on expense line 4012, legal fees increase by between budget to budget about $20,000, almost doubled. Is that the corresponding expense?
It is a corresponding expense for that, but there's also a portion of that that is for our municipal legal expenses for planning.
So a portion of that's going to be billed back, but
Correct.
some of it, okay.
Correct.
Councillor Cornelison.
And just to follow up on Councillor Irwin's questions, the planning, zoning, salaries, and wages almost $60,000, and then we have professional planning engineering at another $30,000. Is that the same person, the same entity?
No, it is not. What you see under salaries and wages is a portion of the clerk's salary, portion of the director of infrastructure salary as well. So, and then under contracted no. Planning is under our levy for the county.
So the professional engineer, what's that?
That is under, it's the same costs as the project recoveries, as a cost recovery. So on the bottom is you have the expense, at the top you have the corresponding revenue, because we can bill it back to the developer.
Okay.
Jaden has something to add to that.
Yeah, just to add or to clarify. So the a big portion of that would be our we retain consulting engineers to do peer review of planning files, like subdivision files and those engineering reports. So they We peer review that with them. They provide comments. And that's recovered cost as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that page? Seeing none? Economic development? No questions on that?
We do.
Go ahead.
I just have to find it. My question is for item 5051 CIP facade program expense. It's, I see that the actual in 23 was 2,500, even though the budget is 20,000, we budgeted another 20,000. Do we anticipate significant expenses, facade improvements?
Through your worship, it was advised at the EDAC committee that we review our CIP program that we're running currently because there hasn't been a significant uptake in applications for it. So what we would like to do, and that will be part of the economic development strategy update, is to look at our CIP program and how we can modernize it to better suit the businesses in our community.
So is this part of that strategic plan?
Well, the economic development strategy update that we would like to do this year.
And who's conducting that? Is that contracted out to another entity or is that internal?
That will be, that plan, it appears elsewhere in the budget. I believe we'll be reviewing that tomorrow.
Yes.
Capital budget.
And
yeah.
that's why I'm asking you, because I know there's another amount somewhere else.
Yeah.
So what specifically is this amount for? Is that for internal costs or?
Oh, that's the cost that we budget in order to, so the program, the way that it works is we have applications come in from businesses that are applied to one of the 4 streams that we have. And so then that money is budgeted to give them, to reimburse them for their projects that qualify for that program.
Okay, so historically, we've been somewhere between $10,000 and $8,000. Historic in the past. No, last
Yeah.
year 20,000, we're 2,500. So we're encouraging to take advantage of this. I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And if there's any changes to it that maybe we need to add some, I think that's part of the process of economic development is going to see if we're missing the mark a little bit or what should be added to it.
And is this funded through the vibrancy fund or is this funded through taxpayers?
Through your worship, I believe it was set up through the vibrancy fund, if I'm not mistaken.
It was. Is it still there?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was, and it was $20,000. And that's, you're right when you say trying to encourage people to use the $20,000, right? And I know in Park Hill, it was pretty tough to do some projects on Main Street last year. But I know it has been used by several businesses in the past, but hopefully we can revamp that to be more useful.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions on that page? No other questions on that page? The next page is strictly the final numbers. The following page is that's it for that. We got to go to water wastewater.
Before we start with the water wastewater, I just want to update members of council. During my presentation, I have indicated, my previous presentation for the budget, I indicated that the rates for water wastewater included in this budget were the same as in 23 because we have a current water wastewater rate study in the works with Watson and Associates. Just to give you an update, Jaden and I have a meeting tomorrow with Daryl from Watson to look at their calculations and their estimates for the rates for the coming years. So at this point in time, that's all I know. Just giving you an update that we are meeting with Watson tomorrow.
I'm confident it will not be decreased.
I would say that is a fair assumption.
So I do have a question for you on that. Then are you bringing that forward tomorrow when we talk about
No,
this?
no,
Or you're gonna leave it at this rate for the budget purposes and then come back?
that's correct. We're gonna leave it at this rate. A bottom line for water, wastewater, because they are self-sustaining cost centers, does not affect the tax levy. Because whatever we have in surplus or deficit will go into water reserves or wastewater reserves, or will be coming out of water or wastewater reserves. So it does not affect the bottom line for the budget. We will be bringing a report to council when we have finalized the calculations with Watson to get council approval for the recommended rates for 24.
Okay, when are you estimating that?
Well, we're meeting with Daryl tomorrow. Maybe the second meeting in April, because I've heard the first meeting is already quite full. So we're looking at possible second meeting. And I think Jaden is looking up, because Daryl had given us a timeline. I think he's probably looking up that timeline right now to confirm the dates.
Thank you, Councilor Pinellas.
Thank you, Mayor Rapp, and I appreciate your comment that it's not going to impact on the budget. However, it may have a significant impact on the ratepayers and what comes out of their pocket, because they have to increase the county levy. Our budget is going to be increasing, and water and wastewater are going to be increasing. So it could have a significant impact all collectively combined, correct?
It could.
So we have to take that in consideration, I think, when we look at our budget deliberation.
And we might, seeing that we're meeting with Daryl tomorrow, we might have a little bit of an idea to give you that information in order for you to better make a decision in regards to the.
Okay. All right, thank you. So the first page.
Mr. Mayor, Jaden is going to give us the
Oh,
timeline.
Jaden, you got some.
Yeah, just quickly on the timeline. So, and also with the rate study, once that's done, we are also doing the water financial plan, which is a requirement of renewing our drinking water license. So we're planning on bringing that presentation to council on May 1st, the May 1st.
First meeting of May.
Yeah, with the rate study and the water financial plan.
Okay, so now we can proceed with page 1 for the water. Under your blue tab.
Councilor Keo.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I don't know whether I'm overlooking it, but I don't see a breakout here for our meter pit program anywhere. Do we still have that in place? I know we spoke about it last year, but it was going to be a reduced amount.
I believe we've gone back to a capital program for that.
Yeah, I think it is in
Get it?
capital tomorrow, isn't it? Jaden?
Yes, through you, your worship. But on the third page, you can see there is
Yep.
still some operating dollars there as well for meter pits, and it's $25,000 for materials and $10,000 for subcon.
Okay, that's on the third page.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jaden.
Anything else on page 1? No? Page 2? Nothing on page 2? Page 3? Councilor Pinellas?
Thank you, Mayor Rapp. I do have a question under disruptions, 5001 trucking for $30,000. So is that because we're anticipating major water line breaks? What is that?
Through your worship, that is for not for major water main breaks, but the long duration shutdowns from the primary water supply, where we have to plan for and get tankers in to keep water in the system.
Which system? Park Hill? Because Elsa Craig's got a tower now, correct?
Yes, it's within the Carlisle system or in that area to feed. So Elsa Craig it's contained and that's taken care of, but we do have to feed water into other areas of the system.
And they are out in, on the Denfield side, correct? That's where those tankers go.
Correct.
Councilor Irwin.
Now I'm curious, so we spent 54,000 on this, 2023. Where are the instructions then?
Through the mayor. We did have some long duration shutdowns. I'd have to pull up to confirm what those dates were. I believe that is for 2 events that we had to plan for. So we are seeing more maintenance being done on the Lake Huron primary system, but it's just those especially long duration ones that impact us where we have to get tankers.
It's just significantly more than we've ever paid, or well, actually, we did pay a lot in 2020, I see here. An aging system, I imagine, lots of potential breaks. Will 30,000 be enough?
So it's just, go ahead, Jaden. Go ahead.
I just note that we did increase it significantly from the 2023 budget. We don't know far enough in advance how many large duration shutdowns there may be. We think 30,000 is a conservative estimate, though.
And there was, before the water tower went in, I think Councilor Nelson, Councilor Keel know, that we had spent in just a few years, almost $750,000 on tankers coming in for water line, for the main being shut down. So it was a big number. It was a big number. So now I think they just take them to the Denfield. Okay. Councilor Daigle and then Councilor Keel.
Through you, Mayor. The 30,000 for the truck, you said that is for like Carlisle and areas like it. Can we separate Carlisle? Is it not on the line that goes to Strathroy?
Through the mayor, it's not necessarily just to feed the Carlisle system. It's just that's the point in the system where we put water into it to keep the pressure up. It's not necessarily the area that gets impacted. I'd have to just confirm those details with our operations manager at Aqua, though.
My question, I guess, is we're not backfeeding and helping Strathroy out.
Right. No.
No, we bought those good valves that stop that. Yeah, the one-way valve. Councilor Keel.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to add to that as a comment. Some of that trucking was also used, that tanker trucking, when they were doing flushing as well. It wasn't just for water outages, it was also for flushing purposes as well.
Through your ship, I'd have to confirm that. I do. Okay. Yeah, it's Councilor Keogh's, I'm pretty sure.
Any other questions? Okay, next page.
So now we're back to page 1 for sewer administration.
I'm sure we'll have more discussion on some of these items under capital. More like there'll be. Jaden, you made comment earlier today when we were talking about the amount of money that we're spending on chemicals in the park, in the reservoirs. Yeah, look. And I just, if you speak that, just the amount, and it's because of the amount of sludge and stuff. And,
Yeah, correct. Through you, your worship, I just look ahead to the second page, bring to council's attention, line item 1542113055, chemicals lagoon. So we did create a new line item to just to be able to better track those costs. We are spending around currently around $130,000 a year on chemical treatment of the lagoon. And that's what we do prior to our spring and fall discharge. So those costs have gone up a lot in recent years with supply chain impacts and COVID-19 impacts. So previously they had been in different accounts. So we just wanted to separate those out to better identify them. And And just for council's attention, kind of before we get into the capital discussion tomorrow, we are hoping, or we're expecting that should we proceed with the lagoon dredging project, that would see a significant drop in those costs for chemical treatment of lagoon.
Okay, because I just pointed that out because we never showed that. And it's, most of us didn't realize how much we were spending on chemicals in the lagoons, like how much it took.
If I may add, Your Worship. So if you look at so back on page 2, where Jaden showed you the chemical lagoons. So just below that, under contracted services, you'll see the 2023 budget is 366,000, but the actuals are 494,000. That's where the chemicals were coded. So the difference between the two is the 130,000 that we are now taking out of there and putting into its separate line item.
Yeah, and that's what I was meaning. It's a pretty substantial amount. It's nice to see them separated out. I see that, as our CEO just mentioned, that the hydro is 130,000 as well. And that is line 3004. That's Else Craig Hydro, I assume. So the chemicals are costing as much as the hydro at this big plant? Yeah, see, that's something until it was separated, I never realized it was that much. Okay, sorry. So page 1, is there any questions on page? Okay, page 2, Councillor Irwin.
I do have sorry, page 2. Oh, wait.
Yep, no, that's fine. Go to page 2.
Okay. So going back to the chemicals, Your Worship, current state of the lagoon is requiring us to use that amount of chemicals. If we were to address the current state, perhaps by cleaning out the lagoons, would we have to pay $130,000?
Through Your Worship, we would expect those numbers to drop significantly. Yeah.
Any other questions? Page 2? No other questions? Is that where we wanted to end tonight? I'm looking to the treasurer on this. Yes?
Yes, tomorrow we will start by tackling any outstanding items from tonight, which I don't believe there is any now that I've answered Councillor Cornelson's question. There's no adjustments needed for operations. There's no outstanding questions that we need to cover tomorrow. There's going to be the report going to council for insurance to give you a breakdown of that. There's the benefits for the fire department that will come at a later time as well.
Yes.
So I don't think there's anything outstanding for tomorrow. So tomorrow we will cover the long range capital forecast and the capital projects for 24.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, motion to adjourn? No, you said enough. Councillor Irwin.